Hey, my name is Alexa Patrick. I am a poet, singer, and an educator, and this is the After Series. Waiting. Ode to an almost first kiss. He was one of the only Black boys in school. Older, an athlete, I 17 unkissed and waiting, on the beach and now a better time than ever to learn what my friends had been telling me about for years. We watched waves spill onto the sand drink its clumsy offering, my wanting making a mouth out of everything, even the moon laughed at us, two kids whose skin mimicked its sky. He fumbled with the moment, heavy enough to create a tide, and then broke as he told me he preferred the light shore of my friend's skin instead. I waited as my disappointment was swallowed by ocean. He was not the first or only boy to leave me buoyed. The one before him was an anonymous Valentine, and with no lighthouse to guide me, I spent my freshman year guessing his name. The one after him was a dark corner at a party. He touched me on purpose, but then walked by me in hallways without saying a word, I unable to look at him without tasting salt. For a Black girl in my town, you learned the worth of your body by the number of boys that wanted you but then didn't ask you out. Your color clandestine, unworthy of public sparkle, the kind that dances on the surface of the sound. For a Black girl in my town, you dance on your own. Shame your body for wanting anyone to touch you, validate your dignity and humanity, colliding horizons that create sharp reflections of yourself. All I ever wanted was to look in the mirror and be soft. Even glass thrown into the sea takes 30 years to be beautiful, but for me, waiting to be wanted, no more righteous in giving up all my edges to undeserving hands. With this boy, I was happy just to have hands that looked like my own. Maybe then his more willing to hold on, though still, and like always, the ocean releases, and I wonder what moon these boys were slaves to that they kept spitting me out. What shattered images of themselves did they see as its light burned their surface, and how bright that it blinded them as I disappeared inside my own dark, too Black to shine, too Black to move a body, pull it in close. I learned Black girls not worth the gravity to overwhelm a heart. Even if the boy's skin too be tarred sky, forgetting me makes him feel mighty, an ocean, and I drowned without ever touching him. We watched waves spill onto the sand drink its clumsy offering, my wanting making a mouth out of everything, even the moon laughed at us, two kids whose skin mimicked its sky. All right, so I love this section of the poem because I like my play with the idea of like mouth. You know, like when you want something really, really bad, you just kind of see it everywhere. That's kind of how I felt when I was a teenager, where I just want to be kissed so bad that everything was just a mouth, you know? So I loved just that very teenage idea and that very teenage feeling. And I loved being able to kind of show that or describe that even in the moon line. So even the moon laughed at us. Even the moon had this mouth laughing at us, two kids whose skin mimicked its sky. Yeah, I just thought it was dope. Even glass thrown into the sea takes 30 years to be beautiful, but for me, waiting to be wanted, no more righteous in giving up all my edges to undeserving hands. Now this line is a very New England line. I don't know if you've ever been to New England, but you see sea glass everywhere. It's a staple. And so I really wanted to incorporate the idea of sea glass just because it was something that described where I was living. And so I did a little bit of research and I Googled how sea glass was made. And I was like, man, It takes 30 years to make this sea glass, this thing that is used to decorate this place where I'm from. That's amazing. How can I mirror that and how I was feeling? And the fact that sea glass has to just wait so long and be rubbed against by all these like coarse salt and stuff in the sea, right? It has to wait so long just to be beautiful, just to be decorative and appreciated. And I was feeling the exact same way. So that's why I love that line. Too black to shine, too black to move a body, pull it in close, I learned. Black girls are not worth the gravity to overwhelm a heart. Ooh. So, I mean, this line, it's one of my favorite lines, and it hurts a lot to say because it's such a painful truth. Here I was playing on the idea of tides, the fact that, you know, the moon and the position of the moon is what creates tides, whether it's high tide, low tide. And so, you know, I wish I were as beautiful as this moon, or as large or influential as a moon, where I get to, you know, create swells, where I get to make people gravitate towards me. But I felt because I was so black, right, I wasn't someone or something that was worthy of that kind of gravity, of that kind of value. And so, you know, black girls have no gravity to overwhelm a heart is something that I just felt I couldn't create those swells inside of someone's chest. So that is why that line to me is so special. All right, so my poem used an extended metaphor to describe the hurt of being a black woman in a predominantly white town. Though a simile is a comparison that uses like or as, a metaphor is a comparison that does not use like or as. For example, a simile would say, the sun is as yellow as a lemon, or the wind whistled like a bird. But a metaphor would be, the sun was a yellow lemon, or the wind was a bird. Of course, these statements aren't based in fact, but they allow your reader or listener to fully understand how bright and yellow the sun was, or how musical the wind sounded. An extended metaphor, on the other hand, is a metaphor that is developed in great detail. The development of my connection to my hometown being compared to my connection to the beach lasted the duration of the poem. Then, at the end, I describe the feeling of rejection being like drowning in that ocean. Using a series of 3 lists, you too will be writing a poem that is an extended metaphor for your hometown. Step 1, think about where you came from. What were the lessons, happy or sad, that your hometown taught you? Create a list of 1 to 3 lessons. For example, in my poem, I talked about the lesson of how difficult it is to be both black and a woman. Now it's your turn to brainstorm the lessons that you have learned from your hometown and choose the one that excites you the most. This will be the topic of your poem. Step 2, think about the symbols of your hometown. What were the things, items, places, or customs that speak to the culture of your hometown? For example, when I think of my hometown, I think of cold winters, apple orchards, preppy clothing, early 2000s punk music, and the beach. For my poem, I chose to focus on the beach. Create a list of 5 things and choose 1. This will be the metaphor that you use to describe the topic of the poem or your lesson. Step 3. Lastly, you will now write a list of all the images that you can think of relating to your chosen metaphor. Since I chose the beach, my list looked a little like sand, waves, drown, water, salt, tide, lighthouse, moon, gravity, the sound, the Atlantic, buoy, sea glass, etc. Quick tip, Feel free to do some research here. Use Google or find a book about your chosen metaphor. Maybe there are some things about your metaphor that you don't know about. When I thought about using sea glass in my poem, I Googled it. Learning how sea glass was made ended up strengthening my poem and creating one of my favorite lines. That said, this list of things connected to your chosen metaphor will become your word box. Try to use these words throughout the poem to extend your metaphor. See all the cool and unexpected places where you can connect the words in your word box to the lesson that you identified in the first step. All right, y'all, I hope you had a great time. My name is Alexa Patrick, and this was my After series. I would love to read all the dope stuff you wrote from this prompt, so please feel free to share them with me. You can find me on social media at Alexa Laurel. That is ALEXALAUREL. Thank you.